All right, we have Christina here, and she's going to cover everything that's happening on with these celestial alignments to date and what's happening with the world and the markets, and she's going to help us all make sense of it right now. Christina, glad to have you back. Let's dive into it. Where would you like to start?
Hi everyone, how are you doing? Yeah, that was a long time. We haven't done video for a while. And I was coming back actually because of I want to everyone to prosper and stay safe. So my intention is pure over here. I don't want you to suffer. And please, Sama, let me just do a little bit of spiel over here, because of
Sure.
many times we are being attacked on social media, and obviously we won't be able to have the critics over here. But I just want to be clear and about a few things here. So, first of all, if I analyze somebody's chart, it doesn't mean I hate the person or I want the person to die. Or, even if I'm talking about America and if something is shifting from the west to the east, listen, guys, I love America. And also, I'm not a socialist. I don't want this country to fail. I want it to evolve, I want it to strengthen, and I want it to prosper. I live here, I love it. Also, the critics aren't rooted, actually, my critics in ideology or something to do with, like propaganda, because of I'm analyzing history pattern as well and astrological pattern recognition, right? Also, I'm an evolutionary astrologer, which means mind over matter, right? You can change the two-thirds of your karma with awareness, with choices, with actions, if you are getting ready and prepared for the upcoming events. And also, the other thing is astrology is not fatalistic. It is actually instructive, and you have to. It does shows potentials, not necessarily presence. Obviously, sometimes it does shows presence as well, but potentials most likely. And all my speech is from research and education. It's not emotional or it's not conspiracy. It's not propaganda. I am a certified financial practitioner also, and I completed multiple crypto courses right after when I finished, the financial astrology course with Sama. And but I also learned from different financial astrologers. It was not just Victor, I had Susan Gilbert as well from ISAR. So I have multiple ladies I was study from as well. And I read a lot of book, and every single week I take on to one astrology course by ISAR as well. So I do a lot of research, and I love to read Jessica Davidson Hysterical Paralyzed. Guys, if you want to just check her website out, she is amazing. She does do a lot of writing. And I also can offer you guys to check The Changing of Gods, because that is a series documentary, which is actually analyzing the history from before Christ, even, the outer planets and the planetary synodic cycles, not just the outer planet, but, the Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, those kind of conjunction and squares and the synodic cycles, right? And that is actually very historian. It is very deep, really, really deep. Sometimes it could be a boring a little bit because, like it's all about wars and flus and pandemic, but it is good to watch because then you're gonna understand, like we evolve like humanity, always getting to a higher frequency, but we still going to go through the same cycles with the planetary aspect. So that's what I wanted to say. And, also I do believe, not everything is going to exactly the same way, experienced by each individual countries. Obviously, when I do research, I check the country's chart and I check the recent political leaders or political party all the time. I do even the composition chart. And, I truly believe as above, so below. So every planet has, negative and positive expressions as well, right? And then we are going to talk about that as well. And guys, I'm also speaking multiple languages. I do have a strong accent, I understand, but you can put CC on, or you can actually check the transcript over there and, like read it if you don't understand me. I'm not going to actually apologize for my accent. I'm proud of myself. I speak multiple language. So, if you have anything to bring on, something with facts, because you're thinking like Sama and I am wrong, please bring the facts in. And then I can check it again, because we do error sometimes, but bring the facts. Don't try to discredit us before without anything over there, because of I realize that there is a lot of keyboard warriors over here. It could be also, the anonymity could bring them some kind of hype, or maybe they are have some kind of liquid courage in and they just want to troll. There is a lot of bots, but I don't need some kind of hate content. You have a free will to leave or skip. If you don't like us, why don't you do and take your time somewhere else, what you like, something meaningful, right? Not something like obsessively hovering around, and claiming something we are not right, or, because it is just like pathetic and sad. So just move on and, just have a beautiful life. That's what I wish for you. But I also, many times realize that the truth going to awaken the warriors and also irritate the sleepwalkers. And guys, if you are willing to stay sleepwalkers, unfortunately, next year, 2026, could be really, really difficult for you, because we're going to have a lot of change on Earth, and not necessarily everything going to be, like glitter and rainbow. So that's what I wanted to start with. Okay, so do you, yes, we're going to start actually. Did you check the planetary movement, Sama? Like we have Saturn moving back to Aries, where it's gonna be in fall on February 13, but before January 26, Neptune going to go, coming out from her comfort zone also, and going to Aries, which is a fire sign, and obviously Neptune is the water, so it could broil its water. So he's also very uncomfortable there. And Saturn is in force. So did you check all the planetary movements for next year?
Yeah, so I'm still in process, and what I find interesting about this time period, like you mentioned, this year versus next year, is that we got a bit of a taste of what next year will be like around the summer if you were in the Western Hemisphere, so July, August, that time period. And so if you found things were moving along nicely, maybe you have some fire sign action going on in your chart, right? Maybe you're an Aries, Sag, Leo type person, or maybe you just have the air signs in a decent alignment. And if you didn't like that time, and maybe you like, the water signs right now, these are just different flavors of experience for consciousness to have through different transits. Right. So these are just things to keep in mind. There's a lot of back and forth with the planets retrograding in and out of the fire signs during that period, and now they're back in these water signs one last time in Pisces, giving a trine to Jupiter and also giving a trine to Scorpio as well, to really wrap things up as we get into, like you said, the February time period. And really, I'm looking at April of 2026 to be like the next closing of the door, right? Or the opening of the new chapter for people, right? We'll have Uranus and Gemini. We'll have Saturn and Neptune back in Aries firmly, and this retrograde process in the water signs will be done by then. And so things will really be able to move forward. Aries is a fire sign, having both Saturn and Neptune in it is both really talking about being able to get started, which Aries is about, on foundational things, Saturn, and Neptune, which is dreamy things. So putting the foundations to your dreams and getting started on them is an opportunity for the fire signs and really for all of us who are aware of this knowledge and will use that for the best of our abilities. And again, like Christina said, it's about using the free will or the knowledge we have to use the energy that's available to us to do something with it. That's why we're here. That's why we have the vehicles we have, and that's why we're covering astrologies to understand the environment, to do what it is we want to do better. And if that's not why you're here, then there's a mismatch really between the intention of the channel and what you're looking for, and that's okay. I don't think you would still, be watching the video at this point. But, really, I'd like to turn it back over to Christina, who has a lot to share with us about these energies so that you can best use them for your benefit. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about, the economy and how that can affect some of the decisions you make as well. But she's really going to give us a good overview on all the different positions of the planets and just how to orient and prepare yourself in terms of what the world is going to be experiencing and what you might experience as well.
Yes, so we're going to start actually with Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It's already started in end of 2023. Beginning Saturn went actually to Pisces. By the end, it started to get closer within 8 degrees in Pisces with Neptune. Obviously, then last year they got really close in Pisces. After this year they both dropped into two areas, so they were actually very close by degree, not by minute. It wasn't you know exact, but that's when we already had the market manipulation, guys. The market manipulation is, Neptune is inflation, Saturn is deflation. Obviously, Saturn is also something to do, especially with traditional astrology, something to do with taxation as well. So tariff is taxation, right? And I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw that the day when tariff came in, actually Bezos put that on Amazon, how much your item increased actually by the tax. And after that, the recent administration sent them a warning to remove it, obviously, because who is going to swallow this? The consumer. It's always going to be the consumer, right? And by the way, yes, we are going to analyze right now the market and let you know where is it going to move and why, also astrologically analyzed and also with historical parallel. But that is just educational and awareness based. You always have to hire a certified financial advisor to help you to invest and make sure you are always safe with your investment. That is very, 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 very important. All right, guys. But going back to Saturn and Neptune over here, which we need to see, yes, deflation and inflation, right? So the first time Neptune is going to drip in January 26, right there. And January 26, it's already been there. What does Neptune actually represent? Neptune represents big pharma. It's also the film industry, and also it is the petrodollar and the oil as well. What's happening right now? Right now, we are attacking Venezuela, right? So I already told you guys, I had a video up on my channel from 20 months ago when nobody talked about Venezuela yet. I said Maduro will be removed from power. Why? Because actually Venezuela chart, so Venezuela has a midheaven at 25 degrees, and America, transit America asteroid right now, it's on the midheaven and squaring with with Venezuela ascendant, which is 26 degrees, and the Mars and ascendant is actually conjuncting in Scorpio, and right now Uranus dropped back to Taurus, where it's in fall and it's retrograde and creating a T square. So yes, indeed, Maduro going to be removed with force. Uranus, Mars, and ascendant over here, the conjunction of that, it's going to create actually a some kind of explosion, some kind of drone attack as well. So that's what's happening over here. Why is it going for? Is it going for to stop the cartel? Neptune representing cartel. So yes, it could be a false flag operation, something like that. But actually, Neptune also oil. Venezuela has the biggest deposit of oil, and they're going for that, right? We had the Spanish flu, and when Neptune conjunction also we had the Spanish flu, and when Neptune Saturn was in Aries, we had also the American Civil War. And right now, Uranus, return of America, also going to bring in another confirmation of a possible civil war. So those are indications actually in America to, and not just in America, because Uranus in Gemini, it is the young people going to create unrest, and they don't want to go with the laws and whatever the bloomers created for them. So Gemini is the young people, Uranus over there, obviously, creating some kind of chaos in April, but also the US chart has Uranus in 7 degrees, and it's already going to start to conjunct from April on. It's gonna be within 8 degrees orb, and then July 4th of 2026, we going to have a Mars Uranus conjunction on natal Uranus, which is people going to be on the street, open enemies, false flag operation in the state. Okay. So also what you have to understand, when Saturn we had in Aries, we had a lot of gun control, and we had a lot of gun law around the world. So we're going to experience also, something to do with new gun laws in America and around the world. But when we had Saturn-Neptune conjunction, we also had, not Saturn-Neptune, Saturn in Aries, we had the Spanish flu. But Saturn-Neptune conjunction also could bring in a new kind of issue with some kind of pandemic. And it could actually relate to the head, because Aries, right? Neptune is virus, Aries is going to affect the head or the eyes or the ears. Obviously, it could create medco, meningitis, things like that. So, how does it affect the market? Pharmaceuticals, biotechs, right? Anything to do with big pharma giants, something to do with vaccination, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson. It could actually spike up, but right after that, 6 weeks later, it could actually collapse, right? So this is going to be something systematic, because Saturn is government influenced, right? And could create some kind of price peaks of pharmaceuticals. But then it's also going to create some kind of crisis. And why did I also bring up Venezuela? And why did I tell you about the chart over here? Because of, there is Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries. It could create some kind of drilling and some kind of issue with drilling, deep water drilling, and the oil could get into the water and create something to do with the mammals. It could actually do some toxicity of the water by drilling. Also, because of, we see right now the BRICS nation rising, right? Because there is 20 nations right now joining the BRIC nations, right? And then actually the US dollar also has a Saturn return when Uranus going to conjunct Mars in July 4th, being on America natal Uranus, the dollar Saturn return only gonna be 5 degrees away. Okay, so that is actually the influence of the dollar going to become weaker. So anything to do Neptune Saturn conjunction, which is going to start February 20th, It's going to have some kind of volatile price change on gas, natural gas, gas ETFs, anything to do with also big pharma and oil. So then, when because of the dollar and America has $37 trillion of debts, right? They need to weaken the dollar. Everywhere around the world, guys, printed money going to get weakened, and gold is going to be the standard. Gold going to become very, very strong. It can go up to 8 to 10,000. So it will be very, very strong. So as silver still going to follow through, silver still going to stay strong. Why? Because silver has a Gemini stellium and a Cancer stellium. And because of Jupiter is exalted right now in Cancer, and next year, June 9th, it's going to have a Venus Jupiter conjunction on the stellium of the silver. So it's going to actually increase the value of silver. And after that, April 26, when Uranus coming into uh, Gemini, it's going to affect the Gemini stellium of the silver. So the next 7 years, silver also going to be very important and valuable. But Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th also going to bring in some kind of temporary cease in some countries of the oil, maybe even heating oil. What's going on right now? So Saudi Arabia decided to buy the oil from Russia and buy the oil from China with yuan, right? With the Chinese currency. All right. So, because of that, and the recent administration of America didn't and couldn't say anything, right now the BRIC nations actually said, all right, let's have another 182 countries, they can pay with UN, right, for the oil. And they created this system right now. So the Chinese money going to get stronger. Also, during Biden administration, the gold vaults moved actually from America. They didn't trust America anymore, the billionaires, and they moved them in China. And in Hong Kong and Shanghai, you can see district with amazing vaults, and people can actually have money, 50 different kind of currencies on if you have Chinese bank account, and uh, also you can have silver and gold coin on your Chinese bank account and pay with it. On the other hand, Chinese also created, they don't expect Visa card or anything to do with MasterCards because of the transaction, no matter what, if you have a Visa card, it's, gives money to the American banks. So they created their own Panda card, which is all the transaction fees actually going to the Chinese government. So that is another thing over here, right? And I'm coming up also the earth minerals. So Pluto in Aquarius, right? And Uranus in Gemini going to trine for a long time. Pluto in Aquarius, it's mining earth minerals. The BRICS nation, the 20 countries over there, owns more than 72% of Earth's minerals. Guys, what's happened with Earth minerals? Anything to do with uranium, lithium, anything to do also with gas and oil or niobium, or name any, or bauxite also. If it's belong from that 20 countries, obviously, if they are tariffed, they can put a cease and not willing to sell to America. What is rely on earth minerals? Everything. AI industries. Do you remember, guys, the dots? What was that? Oh my God, someone help me with that. I always forget. What's happened end of the the 98, 99 when Saturn was in Aries, also the AI bubble. Okay,
Oh, the dot-com crash. Yeah.
yes, yes. So we can have that right now on steroids. And why? Because if you check the news all the time and if you are investing, guys, actually they invest in each other's. Unfortunately, Microsoft invests in OpenAI. OpenAI runs on Azure cloud. Azure runs on NVIDIA chips, so as Meta, Google, Amazon. So do you see the issue over here? They invest in each other's companies. They rely on chips, right? Which relies on earth mineral. Earth mineral is not actually mined in America. America only have ethanol actually, which couldn't be bought by somewhere else, other countries. But that could be a major issues with the tariff. And also Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the very beginning, it is not only civil unrest, but also could bring in market manipulation. Not crash, but market manipulation, and the AI bubble already going to pop because it's sextile with Pluto, but even because Pluto is a malefic planet and Saturn Neptune conjunction is malefic as well, the sextile going to get nullified over here. So that's why I'm saying we are relying on earth minerals, right? And because of the bubble can actually, and the bubble, the AI industries also, it's creating some kind of stability for stock markets. So that's what's happening. And market manipulation is real. It's not legal, but it's real. And it's gonna happen as well. Maybe new tariff going to be introduced after February 20th. So that could create like, okay, people are not capable to pay their bills. For example, BlackRock wants to buy, Larry Fink wants to buy the electricity, the energy companies. If they're going to privatize the energy companies, Pluto in Aquarius is anything to do with energy, right? Pluto is powerful people. Then the consumers will have to pay a lot more money just to have the water running or the lights running, right? And I always think of Nikola Tesla. God bless him. He was a genius, and he always wanted to make sure all human could have. Free electricity and wanted to become, free the electricity. But of course, then Edison came in greedy and like no, I going to I steal everything from Tesla, the genius, and then I going to get the benefit out from it. You always going to have people who are greedy and stealing something from others who meant well. But yes, so right now Larry Flink wants to buy Red Rock, wants to buy actually and privatize all the energy company, and it's gonna be then a disaster, right? But yes, also I do see Saturn Neptune conjunction as some kind of seize and limit of petro oil, right? Like some countries not gonna be able to get oil or heating oil. And Saturn is coldness, it's winter. So some European countries and people over there going to be in danger actually because they're not gonna be able to heat their houses. For example, I know in Belgium, Belgium was a really great country. They had social welfare, they were taking care of the underprivileged. Right now, everything gets so expensive, the people barely heating their houses. So I was just talking with Krasi right before you, and we were analyzing this, and it could be some kind of major issue as well. All right, so yes, it brings in social unrest and it brings in some kind of issue with, like electricity as well, Pluto in Aquarius, but also it's going to move and shift the power because the dollar is weakening. Petrodollar gonna be over, guys, and it's going toward to China. Do I want China to, like be good? I want actually every single country to live in peace and have great trades between them and everybody happily ever after. But that's what's happening astrologically, and that is, also the historical parallel over here. And indeed, if they're creating some kind of new pandemic, or creating or not creating, we can actually do a debate on it. They can come up with a new vitamin. It's not vitamin. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about over here, like the COVID vitamin they gave to people, you know but right now they're not going to be able to seize the people like before. It's not going to be a lockdown. They won't be able to control us in this way. And also the AI, I don't know, Sama, did you ever heard of DARPA and BIS?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, all right, guys. DARPA. I wanted to talk about DARPA and BIS as well because of you have to understand what is the elite doing over here and why we have to try to have some kind of backlash against AI or Palantir or think like that because of they obviously they want to do surveillance on us. And DARPA is actually, it's already started 20 years ago. They had amazing chips, and they also had, robotics and for example, they created the drones, military drones, obviously, and the technology of DARPA is like really, really scary, right? It is also almost like transhumanism, and they are doing researches and how to actually, put chips in people and to. I told you guys, Pluto in Aquarius, we're going to print actually hearts and livers, which is one way gonna be good because of then trafficking, organ trafficking going to be over, right? But it's also could be something to do with transhumanism, and it is very, very scary, right? Uh, but yes, DARPA is actually, something to do with technology, and it is an entity which could be very, very evil. 20 years ago, they already had technology that could read the faces and actually attack. Um, people just by face recognition. It's already happened 20 years before. And they're going to be stronger and stronger. And, that is scary because of Palantir also, Silicon Valley and DARPA together. It could also, have Peter Thiel with Palantir. And what is Palantir? Palantir actually is a surveillance. The Golden Globe around the US, it is actually not a protection or not only a protection, it is also a surveillance. They want to check every single transit, everything you said on social media, everywhere, uh, to check and monetize. And it is almost like an AI slavery, right?
I wouldn't say almost, and I wouldn't say that DARPA is a company that people should maybe be worried about. This is they're towards the end of a long plan that's been in motion. All right,
Yes.
so I encourage you all to do your research. You guys can look up a company called Clonaid. People have been being cloned and body parts have been being cloned for a long time. They're not going to
Yes.
make that available to the public, so I don't have any optimism there personally. So sorry to bust that bubble, but yeah, Pluto and Aquarius is going to be very rough, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna make some. I've been holding back on making these videos for years, but I think now that we are going to experience the transit next year, we really need to talk about the next phase of what you call the vitamin, right? Because the
Yeah.
South Node is going to be moving through Leo, which is going to be opposing the boomer generation. And so I have several
Hmm.
videos loaded for that because that is going to be a massive destruction of wealth, and that's going to start next year. And that is part of why Christina said earlier in this recording, there are going to be young people in the streets protesting because Next year's bear market, when the market turns, is going to be very, very rough on the American economy. Rough, unlike people have seen since the 30s, but that is why you're talking about that devaluation of the dollar, because there's going to be a lot of money printing, right? And that's going to inject the system again, but that money printing is going to go to different parts of the market that it hasn't quite gone to in the past, which is what I'm going to cover in my yearly report, is what I've talked about years ago when I said, wealth is going to move to the east. And that's what Christina just touched on when she talked about the BRICS nation and China. It's not just going to be China, it's going to be basically the rest of the world because we are moving away from the United States being the dominant economic power, really starting next year. And this has been a plan in motion. It begins next,
Yes,
not begins, but you guys are going to see the big impact of it next year, the culmination of it. And then you're going to see other emerging markets now throughout the world picking up strength as well, which is what is called a multipolar world, not a unipolar where it's dominated by the United States. We're going to see other nations kind of gain strength again. And this is what we've seen hundreds of years ago as well, where other regions throughout the world were trying to accrue power, and there's this dynamic balance of powers moving throughout the planet. Where this dominance we've seen with just America over the past 80 years or so, that's just an 80-year period, guys. History and what humanity has been going through is a lot larger than that. And so some of
yeah.
that power is going to leave the West and diffuse itself throughout the rest of the world, whether that's India, Africa, China, but that means the West, which is Europe, so-called Europe, Australia, so-called European Union, you know, these are going to be the things that need to change, whether it's the borders, the rules, and the pushback from the youth who are really living through a time where, these places are being destroyed and rebuilt, right? So they're going to have their own say and frustrations about that because a lot of them are in debt or, they're trying to, function what the system has promised them at the very last stages of it, right? So that's going to make some people upset as well.
Yeah, it will make some people upset. And,
Not
just
some,
don't.
just most of them, really. Like, the 99%, right? So.
Yeah, unfortunately, and in Europe you get used to it, you remember what's happened over there. It was constant, not constant struggle, but Eastern Europe had struggles many times. And also, I wanted to tell you, Saturn in Aries was, the Berlin Wall was fallen, the Russian Empire was fallen, like also Saturn in Aries was Stalin died and Putin was born. So, like there is a lot of significant changes what I see with Saturn in Aries and Neptune also over there, the conjunction and the shift also, and Saturn Neptune also something to do with democratic warfare. So democratic warfare, not necessarily socialism, guys. It is like taking care of the underprivileged, but it's the wealth not gonna be distributed equally. It's not communism, socialism, things like that, but it's going to allow you to improve if you are
So
willing to put.
I'm gonna help you out here because this stuff is very confusing for people with the isms and the this and the that and the terms. Basically,
Yeah.
understand this. There is a ruling class of families who's been drugging the world and benefiting off of it and keeping you guys into a level of understanding that is slow. It's, for lack of a better term, it's a retardation of your faculties. That's why the
Yeah.
water is poisoned, the food is poisoned, the air is poisoned, so that they don't get caught, and so that even if you do find out what they're doing, you're so messed up you can't even really push back or do any of that. So what is happening is we are at a stage with Saturn and Neptune where what is going to seem like is okay, this whole Republican thing with Trump, for example, is going to not work out as promised, which is part of why people are going to be revolting. So then they swing the pendulum the other way and say, let's go more democratic. Let's go more leftist again. This is the same thing that happened 4 years ago when they set
Mhm.
up the whole notion of DEI being incompetent, so that now things swing to the right. And now the right is using this whole DEI left incompetence to further push things along for those families that are running the show and drugging everybody and keeping everybody confused with all these isms. Okay. So there will be more isms that seem like they're going to fix things for the poor, but really you're going to be voting for things and policies that strengthen these families even further. It's going to give them even more control. And that's why we have gotten so far down the path that we have in the first place is the propaganda and the mental manipulations. Unfortunately, it's beyond the comprehension of the average person, and they keep voting for these things. And this is
Yeah,
unfortunately why I'm not very optimistic for that group of people, for the poor who are suffering from this, for most of us. And so this is why you see Trump saying things like there's going to be a stimulus check now for the tariffs. So we're all paying more, and you don't want Amazon to tell us, but now we're going to get checks for money you're taking from us, right? So this is how the game goes, is there are things that are being done to you by them, and then you complain about it, and then the response that's supposed to make things better just ends up giving them more power and control. So
exactly.
if you have the time or the capacity to, you know, look into these things and really understand how these things are happening, I would say the solution is to get smart about the end game here, which is a total socialistic or communistic, whatever word they're going to use, takeover in which these families own everything and you have to pay for everything. You have to pay to breathe, which will be a carbon tax. You need to pay to drink water. You need to pay for electricity. And these will be extreme prices that you can barely afford, so that you have to do what they say, whether it's get jabbed or this, that, or whatever. So once you understand that that's what's happening, then it's about resisting that in all its different forms to the best of your ability, if that's what you want to do, right? So that's
Yeah.
videos like this, consultations with people like Christina or myself, talking with your family about how do we secure our own food, what's the local farming situation, and making
Hmm.
sure that you understand every single aspect of human life is going to be attacked by these people and monopolized in a way where you have to pay crazy amounts of money to just be a human. That is what is happening, and that is why people are going to revolt and push back, or they should if they're awake. And is that
Yeah.
going to be everybody? I think we will see that get to a crisis point, but that means, because of what I just said about all the poisoning and stuff, that things have to get really bad before
Yeah.
people are out of the streets. Do you want to wait that long, or do you want to, follow videos like these and adapt, as things are going along? That's what these videos are really for. So
Saturn, Neptune, you see, that is also, as you said, toxic water. Somehow, as in some places of the earth, going to be Saturn is sucking out the everything dry, so there is gonna be a lot of drought and fire. The other place is going to be underwater with seed clothing, right? Or anything, the offshores. Villages and towns. I live in Florida, going to have more hurricanes. You see what happened with the Philippines, two typhoons after each other. What's happened in Jamaica? It was, I mean, if they would have category 6 hurricane, it would have been category 6. But also, I was reading Jamaica has bauxite and the red soil, and the only way actually to mine that, because it's earth mineral and they really need it to remove the population, and they can do that only with like big hurricanes and climate manipulation, weather manipulation could create that. But anyway, that was very funny when you said about socialism, because they called actually Mamdani socialist. And October 6th, when I did a video with Lori, I said, yes, he will win because I checked his chart. It doesn't mean like I'm a socialist or he is a socialist. But right now, I saw the interview in the Oval Office with Trump, and Trump was all over on Mandami. He really liked him and they agreed in a lot of stuff. So this is funny for me also. But whatever, they are politicians. We are not in this game for sure. But the other thing, what I wanted to say actually the bees. I was asking you if you know anything about, the bees, which is actually a it is not accountable to any kind of government, and it is Basel, Switzerland, and that is a bank system, and it's sovereign. It's immune from any kind of prosecution, and also immune from taxes, guys, right? And they
I mentioned the families that run everything, right? And
yes,
they own these are the companies they own, and this is how they operate. So yeah,
yes, Rockefellers,
yep.
and also right now, even Peter Thiel was, and they have all the politicians are not in it, and they have all their meetings are in closed doors. Right now, Peter Thiel was there, so Peter Thiel is the Palantir guy,
And I'll
obviously.
just say this too, because like you said, these are closed door meetings. Any politician you see in public, they're vying for power. Okay,
Yes.
they're trying to grab power. I don't want to say they're a loser, but it might help for you to think of them in that way compared to the people who are having these closed doors meetings. You're not going to see those people. You're not going
No,
to see those
no.
people. Trump is
You know,
exposed. All these people, all these politicians you see, these people are exposed. They can't even live and do the weird, creepy things with Epstein that they would love to do behind closed
mhm,
doors, right? They're
yeah,
publicized. They're not
they are
powerful.
puppets.
And in 4 years, they're gone. They're called transients in the government, in the CIA. That's what they're called because they are transient. They're here today and they're gone tomorrow, and they're here to distract you. So again, empower yourself. Why are you even here on this planet? How well do you know your chart? How well are you fending for the things that you're supposed to be eating and going along your journey? Those are the things that are way more important than like what Christina said about haters being caught up about this ism or that ism. Get
Okay.
Yeah. It's time to get smart because like Christina said, people are gonna be out on the streets, people are gonna be hungry. You guys can tell
Yes.
AI is coming for jobs, so
Yeah.
the more a person is in the thinking of the government is here to help me, let me put my hand out versus, oh, these people are really gearing towards something like a takeover or an implementation of a new system. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm okay by the 2030s? I think that's more of the thinking that if you understand what's happening here, what Christine and I are saying, that you really need to be really more action oriented rather than being the one who is surprised next year and is out on the streets, complaining.
I always tell my clients, make sure, because I live in a hurricane affected area, obviously. And, for me, I have to get ready for every single hurricane season. I have my water, I have my food supplies, I have, even filtration to clean my water. So that's what you have to do. Maybe you want to actually start a hydroponic garden, and sprouting vegetables or start to sprout because you can live on them. Make sure you have pine nuts because it has 21 minerals in it and you're going to survive on that. So make sure you are prepared. Make sure your dollar could worth 400,000 40 overnight. So the inflation could be terrible and huge, and you don't want to use your
I wouldn't
401k.
say so. My opinion here, and the data, my research really supports this. I know I haven't posted a lot this year, but those who have followed my newsletter have heard me say this before in interviews as well. Neptune in Aries is inflationary. We are going to see strong, crazy inflation in the United States as we get into the 2030s. Right now, what we're going through in the market is deflationary with what's happening with Saturn. But Saturn's only going to be in Aries for a few years and then it's going to be gone. And then you were talking about interest rates in double digits. Like Christina said, people are going to have a very hard time affording much of anything, right? And that's
Yeah,
part of the equation is the high inflation, and the banks aren't going to be all, so happy about lending money with interest rates that high. All right. So it's really, it's really important to think about self-sufficiency. I'll just put it that way because we are being shoved into the part of the cycle where people are basically supposed to beg for handouts. And
hmm,
if you don't want to compromise yourself or do the things that would be required to get those handouts, you should have been preparing and you need to be continuing to prepare for this transition.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, we're going to get some kind of good news. For example, Jupiter going to Leo June 30 is by Western astrology. We're going to have something if you want to invest in gold and NFT art collectives, AI generated spiritual content, things like that. It could actually increase the value of your money. Obviously, we're going to, when Uranus on April 26th going to go to Gemini by Western, it's going to help with cryptocurrency because we want to bypass paper money, which is printable. They're gonna digitalize everything. But also, I'm very, very, I really liked Warren Buffett. I know a lot of people say he's evil, but he's very conservative and he likes tangible things. And I like gold and silver. I really do. But Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, also anything to do with uranium and as I said, if you invest in lithium, uranium, it would be really amazing. Saturn, Neptune, going back to it, guys, that's war. And when we have Saturn in Aries, that's we had the 6 days war. Israel bombed a lot of countries. We had the borders changed with Saturn, Neptune multiple times. It's related to these planets. Or even Saturn in areas. So the war stock always going to go up. That's what I said at the beginning. Not everything going to go down. And also, we're going to have a huge crash in 2028 when Saturn Pluto going to square. But the housing bubble also going to get affected because of when we have the first eclipse in North Node, the first eclipse in Aquarius, February 17, when we're going to have the new Chinese New Year. That's happened in 2008 when we had actually the crash of what is that, the real estate market. So we're going to have over there some kind of crash also. So, but just make sure you protect yourself and make sure you also have your friends around you because money can and your finance it could vaporize your money obviously. So it's going to be a little bit heavy, but Jupiter and Saturn trine and Jupiter and Venus conjunction going to give a little bit of relief by end of August. So I going to, and I see a little bit of relief over there. I don't know what do you see there, but I somehow I do.
Yeah, I think so like I mentioned with the stimulus checks, and
Oh, okay.
I've hinted at this a couple years ago. I haven't talked about it a lot, but there's going to be a form of universal basic income. Whatever that is,
Mm,
though, I think it's pretty clear that we're seeing that they're going to use crypto to give that to people
yes.
to help push more of the use of crypto as well. Crypto can be good and bad. It can
Yeah.
it when you see the government or the state being involved with it, it's probably not good intentions for you though, right? The thing that's good about crypto is what it will help you do in terms of fighting inflation and being able to earn against that. But the thing about crypto is that it's digital and it can be very controlled, particularly in the future, the more they are able to tax it and look into the transactions with things like Palantir and quantum computing. I'm sure they already have all the tech, they just aren't,
Oh, yeah.
publicizing it that they have it. So the ability to track transactions and to know what you're doing with your spending, it's not like cash, right? It's not nearly as private as cash, right? And so that's always on record. So that's part of what benefits the government there with crypto. And the big thing is that it takes people away from real physical tangible assets. So
Yeah.
if you're going to invest or deal with crypto at all, just keep that in mind that it shouldn't be 100% of your portfolio. And again, I'm not here to give financial advice. I'm just telling you how I look at things because do you really you can't eat your digital Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the
Yes.
day, if you need to give somebody a couple of dollars for some, eggs or bread or whatever, you can do that. With gold and silver, you'll be able to do that. With real estate, you can live there, you can give other people shelter. And so this is why I've talked about this transition from what's happening in terms of a more communistic future happening in the United States. The most important assets to own are precious metals and property,
Yes.
and it's important to have some cash on the side. Now, add crypto and Bitcoin to that fusion, sure, because of what it'll do for inflation. But if you don't have real tangible assets, you could be setting yourself up to be, just be a dummy, to have your digital assets taken from you by the government, just like that, and then you have nothing physical to actually lean on, you know. It's the
Or
physical component.
hackers.
Yes. Yeah.
Hackers, because Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, know, the youth are rising, they are geniuses, they could become hackers very easily. So yes, you are actually, easily can get your identity, lost and get hacked. Because I'm always laughing because I like young Sheldon. I watch that with my boys. And in Young Sheldon, once Sheldon came into Georgie's room and said, "Oh, I'm going to create a digital currency and I'm going to sell it and da 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 da." And I don't, so you guys have to check that part. Check it in Google, when Young Sheldon said to Georgie about digital currency. It is hilarious because Georgie is a streetwise person, but really not smart, just street smart, and said, "Oh, so you are creating something digital where you can just actually steal from people." And like the way actually Georgie criticized with that simplicity what is the digital currency, it made me laugh. And I was like, holy moly, all right, this
Well,
is
this is
what it
this
is.
is this is the poisonous story of Pluto and Aquarius. And as a creative person
Yeah.
myself, part of why I'm not on camera right now is a lot of these social media companies have quietly decided that they will use all your uploads to train AI. It has to be done that way. There's no exceptions, which is ridiculous. You're saying now that you have the right to plagiarize everything that's been on your platforms just like that. And so this is that
Yes.
Pluto and Aquarius energy. It can be very toxic to the human experience of things, unfortunately. And I felt this and I saw this coming for an issue with people when Saturn entered Aquarius and we had the whole lockdown thing and people were separated from each other and miserable.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the components that we all kind of, this is how transits work. We experience the energy of things in the environment. Is Aquarius has to do with the outpouring of consciousness. It's actually symbolized with a human in it, which should tell you something because not all the 12 signs are. So this
Uh-huh.
human sign now is now being for about 20 years. It's going to have this transit of Pluto, which regenerates through destruction and rebuilding, right? So that very literally means you probably heard some astrologers say this, but this is literally what it means is that our sense of what it is to be human and what we know humanity to be is going to be destroyed and rebuilt,
Well,
right?
I truly hope they cannot actually,
It's for
take
better
over.
or worse. Some people are going to be
Yeah.
neural linked up and be biodigitized with, made out of fake meat and stuff like that. And
Oh, yeah.
whatever that's going to be, they're trying to call it human, I guess, and what I'm saying right now will probably be an insult in 5, 10 years to such beings. And then there's other
Yeah.
beings too who are more advanced and more developed with different systems that are actually entering the planet right now as well. And they
Mhm.
are not, made in a laboratory, right? They're actually a change in what it is to be human, which human design is hinted at as well. If you want to go down that path of research, you guys can look into that as well. And that's happened before
Yeah,
with human beings. So I'm not
of
saying the
course.
destruction and rebuilding is all going to be bad, but it's literal in the sense that you're going to see the good and the bad, however you feel about that, right?
Yeah, you see, like, for example, chips in the brain for autistic children, and then they going to be able to use the bathrooms and have a a regular average life. Or Alzheimer, it could actually heal Alzheimer or dementia. Obviously, there is a lot of good, positive effect of that. But, Pluto in Aquarius could be like what actually Bill Gates want, the global vitamin, a general, regular global vitamin for everyone. It could actually change your DNA. Pluto is DNA. So, yes,
Yeah,
definitely it could do
it
that.
is. Yeah.
But you see, for example, Saturn in Aries, going back to that, that is submarine technology, right? So anything to do with, and especially Neptune being there, it could become really, really, increasing submarine technology stacks, or it could actually increase any kind of gun stack, for example, even with the during Saturn in Aries, always a regulation of gun control, always. But
Yeah.
anyway, it could do that. And Saturn and Neptune is luxury, right? And it could also create an amazing opportunity for luxurious cars as well. So Rolls-Royce holding could go up because also we're going to have eclipse, solar eclipse in um, August 12th. It's gonna happen in Leo. So those kind of stock could show increase, for example. So it's not everything that's going to show a downfall, obviously. And definitely right now crypto is down because Uranus is in retrograde in Taurus in its fall by Vedic and by Western, both. So that's when crypto is going really under weather. And also there I was reading they want to do and want to push out actually the regular people to mine, for example, crypto, so they can buy up more. But that can happen as well. So, there is a lot of things happening. Definitely after April, crypto and anything to do with nuclear power stock, lithium, uranium, anything to do with energy stock going to increase, guys. War stock always going to be high. I'm so sorry to say that. Unfortunately, it is a very sad thing, especially Saturn being in Aries and Neptune over there, always civil war and actually expanding war. So yes, that's what's happening over here. But make sure you are listening, make sure you are getting ready and has a very, very variety of portfolio and also Tesla, I still see Tesla actually um, to increase because of Jupiter is in Cancer, and Tesla and Elon Musk both has stellium in Cancer, so it's still increasing. And what's his name? Elon coming in with the Tesla houses, the more small Tesla houses, so it's going to increase Tesla stock. But look into also Rivian and Lucid. I checked them, and it could also increase. And the Chinese car, the electric car. Oh my God, they sell more of that in Kazakhstan and in those area Russia than Tesla sells ever. So check the Chinese electric car if you want to invest over there because it could be really amazing.
From my travels, what I've seen is the rest of the world likes cars from China and Japan. They're more affordable for one, and for two,
Mhm.
all these components that go into the electric vehicles are over there in China in the first place. So this is again in line with the trends we're talking about here of energy, economic wealth, and power, moving to the east. It's really a market that's really set for them to take over. I would say more than America. Yeah, Elon has Tesla, but that's really it in terms of the United States side of things. The world is already comfortable buying cheap cars from China, and they know that they're cheap in the sense that sometimes they'll break down or not. But as that improves, I can see that market really growing over
Yeah,
there.
I know the chip technology improved, and they came out with an amazing, very small battery actually, and it's a lot smaller than Tesla uses those huge batteries, and the car has to be changed the battery every 5 years, which is $10,000. So it's not necessarily affordable for an average person, right? So they came out with like a week ago, I was listening the news, and with a very small battery, which is going to take over, obviously. And yeah, so we have to look into those kind of things, but definitely could be like if shifting, everything is shifting right now. And just be aware, if you listen anything and you want to have a debate or a smart conversation with us, and show, okay, I heard that, did you check asteroid America here and there, and what does it mean? Just let us know, because of obviously America anyway going through a huge change, just not only the recent government. And believe me, guys, the left and the right wing is belong from the same bird. So when I'm saying that, like I don't want to take side over here, but just I want to say to stay over here. And I forgot what I wanted to say. I wanted to say something. Okay, I just forgot my thoughts over here. But yeah, so anything to do with submarine technology, anything to do with concrete, with road buildings. For example, Uranus and Gemini could be 3D printed villages, and even the road could be printed like from I don't know from what, but everything is going to be 3D printed, which is going to be easier, and also uh, you know um, uh, long term, like the hurricanes and weather challenges not going to affect it. But also there will be a lot of countries which is coming up with flying cars, and that is also a good investment. And as China already have flying cars is in progress right now, and they have it out. And yeah, so I don't know what else can we say, but
I think that's plenty, and I really appreciate, you taking the time to share all of that. Again, people can check out your website. What's the website again? It's is it the Cosmic Urban
no,
Witch?
my YouTube channel is Cosmic Insight Astrology. My website is
Urban Witch.
urbanwitch.org.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
So that's what it is. I can talk and talk, but we don't have 10 hours, guys. Obviously, the video is not going to allow us to talk about everything. I'm going to do a long video about 2026, and also the financial part as well. I have available a report on my website for each individual rising sun or moon, whatever you are more comfortable with. Somebody follows their sun sign, uh, and actually it's 150 pages about, and it is bringing down and breaking down every single aspect, I'm giving you sticker symbols where to invest in. So it is a very detailed prediction, and I explain you how I did it. I teach you during the time. So, let me know if you would like to reach out to me, or Sama. We are willing to help. If you have any smart conversation, go ahead and uh, show us what's going on and what do you see over here.
Okay, so they can check that report out on your website, and you guys can also go to the financialastrologer.com if you would like my report that lists out the stocks, ETFs, and sectors that I'm looking at for next year, as well as the pattern or the thesis in terms of how I think the overall market will play out quarter by quarter. So whether it's an up quarter or a down quarter, I'll go into that as well. Maybe you can use both reports from what Christina is looking at from a transit viewpoint into your chart, as well as what I'm looking at in terms of what I'm buying and selling and when and why. And maybe those things can help you. Again, you should really be experienced and knowledgeable in terms of the risks that come with the market. This isn't financial advice, so it's good if you're experienced with these things. And if you're more curious about astrology you're wanting to learn, subscribe to both of our channels. Christina has courses available and readings and sessions as well. Busy during the holidays, but her calendar is generally more available than mine is. So check us both out. We're both available for consultation, and you guys can ask us whatever questions you have in those sessions, whatever they might be, personal, random, inspired, you name it. Until then,
Yeah.
be well. One love, you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.